Hello and welcome to the shop. Today I finally decided to showcase one of my projects that I've been doing at home. I'm wanting to make a walnut end table. I've got some leftover walnut from another project. I'm wanting to take probably half of this, make a pentagon shape around for the surface, have an inlay in the center with bottle caps that are epoxied over. So I've got my epoxy, got a bunch of bottle caps, some plate steel for the base, and some round steel tubing for the center pole. Hopefully this either inspires you, provides some entertainment for you, and hope you enjoy. Let's get to it. So this will be my first project that is not only 45s and 90s. So I did a little bit of math. That's what it's basically going to look like in my head. Now if I've got a pentagon, I need to divide 360 by 5 because there's 5 joints, which gives me 72 degrees. So as long as each one of these is 72 degrees by 10 inches on the inside part of the board, should be perfect, and I shouldn't have to worry about anything being weird. Now I decided 3-inch wide board, which will be perfect for this board, because this is about 70 inches, so it should give me enough leeway in case I mess something up. And 3 inches should be plenty wide, and it's a little less than 3/4 thick. So since it's skinnier, it'll be thicker. And then for the underlay, underneath the bottle caps, is going to be this MDF sheet. I think it's 1/2 inch MDF sheet. That will bolt to the boards and bolt to the plate on the bottom through that pole. I got just a smidge over 3 inches all the way across. I know I said I was going to plane it first, but I want to have a little bit of leeway after it's been cut. So it's about 3/8 inch wide. Now I need to plane one surface, get it nice and smooth, and then start cutting 72-degree angles. Hopefully I don't mess any of them up so I don't have to cut up any more of my good boards. So there's a couple things I want to touch on real quick that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but it's really basic. Making accurate cuts and making accurate measurements. So you can see about every single one of these is at 10 inches. And I can't claim the accuracy of the degrees because it's a decent saw. Now mind you, 72 degrees is 36. Since it's 2 boards, you're cutting that 72.5. When you're marking, say 10 inches is right here. I'm going to mark just the smallest of mark. If you take a big Sharpie, that Sharpie mark is 1/8 of an inch wide, and it's pretty ambiguous where you actually need to be. So if 10 inches is right there for me, I'm going to take this over to the saw, and you also have to take in mind the kerf of the blade is, I believe what it's called. That's about another eighth of an inch. And when you mark, you want to see the blade just left or right of where your good piece is. So if you can see that little mark, if my good piece is right here, then I want to leave that mark, and that way I know it's 10 inches. And if it's a 32nd of an inch too big, run it through a planer. It's not a big deal. If it's a 32nd too short, kind of shit out of luck. Figured I'd say that. I'm going to plane these. I've never planed finished pieces before. I usually just plane the whole board and then cut it to size, so we'll see how this works. If it's any better, I'll do that from now on. If not, then we'll go back to my old way of doing it. So I changed my mind on using MDF for the inlay. I've got this piece of cedar board, which is really wide, and the perfect width for it that I can just cut it here, nick that edge off, flip it and do the exact same thing on this side. And then I can stain, or not stain it, but use some oil on that, and that'll bring out the nice, almost pink color of the cedar in contrast to the dark walnut. basically all filled in here. Probably a little bit more spaced out so it shows a little bit more wood. But yeah, just that throughout the inlay epoxy. This is all centered, good to go. I've got some screws. They're drywall screws, they're not the best. I should use an actual wood screw, but it's all I've got. It'll work for now. I'll pre-drill the hole so it doesn't split it. Put 2 or 3 in each board and then flip it, see what it looks like, do a quick mock-up, and then we'll probably do a trial run with the epoxy and then start doing the metal side of the project, making the stand and welding and cutting all that up. So hope you enjoy. Got a little lazy, and that one split unfortunately, so did a little counter sink with a countersinking bit. And not a problem anymore, but yeah, don't be lazy. Well, there it is. A little bit of a gap here that I need to find a way to correct, and then this needs a way to tie those two in, because right now you can see that's those seams line up, which ain't great. I have fixed the gap. All I did was add a new screw. That's pretty easy. I've also got my test run of epoxy going. So that part's pretty much done. I need to focus on the metal work, which on the opposite side of this is going to be the metal plate. It's going to tie these two boards together, and it's going to have the rod welded to it. That is going to be 4 inches and then probably 3 screws on each side, which I've got marked over here. So I need to clean that up and get it all ready for paint. And then same thing with the rod. And then the big plate here is going to have a pentagon that is a smaller version of the surface cut into it, which I think will look pretty good. And it'll give it a nice heavy base, so it won't try to tip over or nothing. At least I hope. That's the plan. So let me get to cutting on this metal, keep an eye on that epoxy, and it was at this moment I realized freshly cut metal was hot. Okay, after messing around with some paper printouts, some creative measuring, finally got the pentagon. I eventually had to use this, which I have never used, but I've had it in my shelf up there for a while. That was my first attempt. See, that looks pretty bad. This one's pretty, each one of these legs is 7 inches, so I know it's almost perfect. So now I just gotta cut this out, clean it up, weld it all together. So I'm pretty much done grinding, cleaning. We got the base plate, the pole, and the piece that attaches to the top. You can see even after all that flap disking, I still didn't get through that mill scale. It's tough stuff. I actually had to take a grinder to get the mill scale off. Same thing with this one. But those metals were pretty rusty. It took a pretty good bit of cleaning up, as you saw from the cloud of dust. Yeah, I'll get these cleaned up a little bit more and then get them welded up. Alright, so I got my setup. Give this a quick solid tack weld. I also don't think I'm quite perfectly center because my pentagon's not perfect. Big surprise there. It's almost like I cut it with an angle grinder. So the thing I'm going to do is cut the welds, refinish it, recenter it, and then try to make sure it's perfect the second time. So yeah. But right here where it's mostly flat, you can see good enough for me. Let's finish welding this up, shall we? Okay, I am done. I think that turned out pretty decent. I think I've got one or two pit holes to fill in the first one, but I'm no perfectionist, and I'm still pretty new to TIG welding, so I think that's pretty decent. Let me show you that epoxy. It turned out pretty good. It's only been like 2 hours, I think. It's pretty much hardened up. Like, I can touch it pretty good, and it's nothing. There's just like a haze of bubbles. I'm not sure if it's the glass or the plastic that's doing that, or if it's just really small bubbles. I'm not sure, but either way, I'm pretty happy with it. If that turns solid in like a day, then that'll be more than good for me. So, back to it. 3 holes. Boom, boom, boom. 3 holes. I guess countersink the bottom, and then give her some Scotch-Brite, some smoothing, prime it, and then paint it today. That way, I don't have to wait on another day of painting. And I can also stain the surface over there. And the spacing of these don't really matter because I'm going to line up the surface perfect and then drill from the bottom. Okay, so at this point in the recording, I accidentally knocked the camera off the table, and when that happened, it accidentally put it in time-lapse mode, so it recorded fast forward with no audio. So unfortunately, I missed a few bits where I was talking, but that's why I'm here now. I'm kind of going to voice over what happened.
I mostly just finished scotch brighting that base, cleaned it up, got it ready for paint, got a little paint station set up. I used an automotive filler primer to try and fill in those grinding marks, because in the past I've used just straight paint and they still show through, so I used that primer to hopefully fill those scratch marks. A little bit of sanding and showing off the tongue oil that I used to oil the table surface.
Okay, so base is painted. It didn't turn out as nice as I wanted because that can was almost empty and it was starting to spray and it didn't get that even of coverage, but it's good looking from afar, so I'm pretty happy with it. If I need to, I can spray it again when I get new paint, but I think it looks pretty decent. And then looking at the footage, I also realized I couldn't really get a good look at my welds. It's still kind of hard to see, but there you go. Like I said, they're decent. This is also done and I've got a little layout. That's basically what I'm going to do. Now what I need to do is, before I paint it or pour it, is I need to tape the underside and all the seams. That way none of that epoxy drips into those cracks. Well, if it does, then it won't keep pouring out. I also need to make sure this is perfectly level. And to do that, I've got my level and some shims. So I said I was going to do it in one pour because this turned out pretty good, but I changed my mind for two reasons. One, it allows the bottle caps, I can pour it over the bottle caps. I know I said I didn't want to, I wanted to put the bottle caps in there, but since it's such a large surface, it's going to take me forever to put in every single bottle cap, make sure it's all perfect. I'm afraid by the time, if I start here, over here it's going to be all hardened and it's not going to work. So I'm going to do a half pour it all over and then work them, let them all work all their bubbles out and then resettle. And then the second pour, it'll be a nice flat finish. And like I said, if the first pour, if one of them's poking out the surface, that second pour will save me. The second reason I want to do it in two pours is it's hard to, I want this to be a nice seamless transition here. And doing that second pour, I get to focus more on getting that perfect than worrying about all the bottle caps. All the bottle caps will be done, and I'll have a nice smooth base to work with on the second pour. Nice smooth transition. So yeah, I'm gonna tape this up, get it perfectly level, get the bottle caps ready, and get the epoxy ready. Okay, so it's been about 3 hours. It's pretty well set up. It's not really liquid anymore. I had some issue with some seepage coming through the tape and through the knot in the wood. It was actually flowing through the knot a lot more than I thought it was going to. Because of that, I had to take a pry bar and actually pry this up and see how much seeped out. I put some wax paper underneath to try to keep it separated so it doesn't completely fall into the table. Now I'm going to try to pull this up, peel all the tape and the wax paper off, see if I can't get an okay surface on the bottom. Clear the table, re-level it, and pour the second layer, hopefully in an hour or two. As it says, after 6 hours you can pour it. A second leveling station set up. It is supported on the edge there. That way the bottom no longer touching, because you can see that is absolutely coated in epoxy. There's so much epoxy that leaked through. Okay, so that's the end product. I'm pretty happy with it overall. It's, like I said, it's a personal project for me, so I'm not trying to sell it or make money or please anybody. I'm just trying to please myself in this project, and I hope you enjoyed the ride. I can't take credit for the idea. I was inspired by Onrust's video. He did a similar design, but with circuit boards inlaid. So if you enjoyed this video, go check out that video. It's in the description. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and if you enjoyed this video, go check out his video. Thanks. Shit. That is a metal shaving to be proud of. Jesus.